Quiet quitting, it's all the rage. The Two Business Guys Mastermind on how to keep it from destroying your company. Enjoy. This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. Hey everybody, it is Randy and Rob, and we are the Two Business Guys Mastermind. And I tell you, we're masterminding on some interesting stuff today. Rob, how you doing, man?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. How you been?
I can't complain. You know, I sent Rob a note, everybody, and it was something that I heard watching a podcast, another podcast, and it says, you know, remember this, Rob, level 2 opportunity, and you've got a level 10 skill set. Now, we constantly, as coaches and facilitators and consultants, we constantly see good entrepreneurs in a level 2 opportunity. We go, oh my gosh, you talk to them, you say, oh, they got some sales skills or they got some skills, and you go, yeah, but your skill sets are 10, but that's a 2. Right? I'm finding myself in that same situation. But here's something interesting. Now, this is a turn on things, Rob. Here, I came across this the other day. Have you ever heard of quiet quitting?
Yeah. I just read an article about that.
Quiet quitting is driving me nuts because, first of all, I don't understand what that's about. Not really. But then again, I remember reading a book. Oh man, I don't know if I had that book here. It was called Die Broke or something like that. And you know, it doesn't sound the same. Die Broke. It says the last check you write should be to the undertaker and it should bounce. And it's talking about, you know, you living your best life and all that kind of stuff. And in there, the guy said, now this was a book written years ago. He says, you should, in essence, quietly quit. You should go to your job and in your mind, mentally quit. He said, because they're looking to fire you anyway. They're looking to reduce you out as a cost. Right? So, yeah. and so then that started on the journey of you basically are going to the job for a different reason, to use it as, you know, some funding source, all these things. But I kind of got what he was talking about. And I employed that at my, you know, company I had been working with a long time ago. I went in and says, I no longer own this job. And that was it. It was about empowerment. Saying to yourself, I don't own this. So that way they can come in and says, I'm going to reduce your hours and you're hurt. Or we're laying you off and you're hurt. It was a way to protect yourself. So when I've been hearing about this quiet quitting and the fact that I run, you know, companies that employ people, and I'm asking myself, are they quietly quitting?
Yeah, now you're on the other side.
On the other side. And then I literally said to the guys, I says, hey, maybe our manager's quietly quitting. And here's what that means. So hopefully they Google it too. But what about businesses, Rob?
Yeah.
How many people have quietly quit their business? And maybe we could talk about that a little bit.
I like that. And with employees, with businesses, with everything, this is the topic. It's so funny because when I read the article, I was like, yes, I get it. It's, you know, a rose by any other name, right? It's the same thing that we've been talking about for years and years and years. It's normally called lack of engagement. It's normally called low productivity. It's normally called, right, you know, not being all the way invested, all the way in, all of those types of things that you've heard talked about since time immemorial, right? The whole point is, and I love the fact that you talk about the kind of the die broke mantra of protect yourself, which is if we remember how we are set up as human beings, our first objective is survive. And so the majority of everything that our brain naturally processes things under is how do we protect ourselves so that we survive? And that's not bad. That's great. That's a great foundational starting point. And I tell people this all the time because there's a difference between surviving and not surviving, right? Like everybody tries to make it seem like thriving and surviving are diametrically opposed. It's like, no, they're on the same side of the ledger. Right? Surviving and thriving are all about still being here. Not surviving, that's a real what was the book? Clear and Present Danger, right? It's a real threat. And therefore, we have to acknowledge and accept the fact that our first priority is to survive, but that should be our floor. Now, the thing that was interesting is I loved how you kind of talked about how when you were an employee, you looked at it one way. When you're an employer, you look at it a different way. And for business owners, they have the task of being both employee and employer at the same time, because you're your boss, right? You're trying to get yourself to do the best that you can do so that your other self, the self that said, yes, this is a good idea and we want to do this, can get the rewards that you wanted to get. That's the whole idea of business. And I take issue with the one thing that the guy said, which was the rationale for taking care of yourself, which is they're trying to fire you. They're trying to take from you. They're trying to eliminate your position, which is not true, right? That's one of those cynical views of employment and of group dynamics that thinks that the pie is a fixed amount, and that it's a zero-sum game where I'm trying to steal from you because I need more from me. And that takes away the reality that human beings have the talent of innovation and ingenuity and synergistic creation, right? It's not in these businesses, in these areas where you actually have to take less or you have to do less so that you can take care of yourself. The reality is, if you become someone who adds value wherever you go, you become invaluable wherever you go. Right? Whether you're a business owner, whether you're an employee, whether you're a manager, a supervisor, whatever. When I teach leaders, one of the things that I teach them is, how do you get your people to, even though they're ordinary, to do extraordinary things? And the way that you do that is you add value to them, and that facilitates them beginning to be value creators. You become a multiplier, right? And so in that space, one of the big things that's really important is to remember
a multiplier. That's
right.
Interesting,
right.
I'm following you. I'm tracking.
Yeah, the key is to remember that the pie can get bigger, right? If you're stuck in the paradigm that the pie is only this big, then it starts creating certain natural actions that you take. But if you can always remember that the pie can get bigger, if you have a company that does $1 million in revenue, and you want labor to be 30% of that million, so that leaves you only 330,000 for labor, but you have this amazing employee that is going to leave if they can't get a $10,000 raise. There's certain people that will say, well, I guess we can't pay them, so I guess we're going to have to go find their replacement. But the innovator, the multiplier, the legacy leader will say, how can we incentivize them to help us create another $30,000 in revenue so that we can pay them an extra 10.
Now that's interesting. And I, now that you say something like that brings something to my mind. The legacy leader finds a way to incentivize them and to go create the money that is needed.
Exactly.
That's interesting, right? Because, as we've got a manager saying, hey, can you pay me a little bit more money? We're going, can you do a little bit more work? That's
the whole deal. And a lot of times that question feels like, how dare you ask me for more money? Why is that a problem? They want more money. They need more money. They're telling you what they need. Most people, right? Quiet quitting. The key to quiet quitting is it's quiet. You don't know until they're gone, right? There's a lot of people that will sit and, like you said, just bide their time or just do enough to not get fired. Yeah. But the key is, if you've got people coming to you saying, this is what I need, now you know how to incentivize them to do what you need them to do. You need $10,000 more dollars. We need you to show us how you have improved the business by $30,000 in the bottom line, and we can give you $10,000 easy.
I actually like that a lot. And it's a conversation that has to happen like sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But hold on. I got to do one thing. Hold on.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective though, Rob, that you're seeing why I love that incentivization part of it. Right. And this is kind of why we do business. Exactly. we see some life challenges and we go, let's go get it. See if we can do it ourselves instead of, being lazy butts and just working jobs, I guess. But I get that. And, I'm always listening for if I hear the entrepreneur in another person, right? Because if you start smelling entrepreneurship in another person, they're probably not going to be with you anyway, because they just got that itch and they got to go scratch it. right? But if that quiet quitting is the default, is that solvable?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
can you
see,
incentivize past that?
yeah, you first of all, yes, you can, and second of all, I have to disagree with you on the whole entrepreneur tip as well, because the idea of the entrepreneur is not that they are a lone wolf that has to go out and do their own thing. That's not what entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurship is, I see a way to change and transform what is going on. And there's a word, there's a term, Patrick Bet-David uses it a lot. It's called intrapreneur.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is that there are people that need to start their own thing, but oftentimes they need to start their own thing because they don't have a vehicle through which to make whatever it is that they see come to the world. So they got to go create it. But if you can give a vehicle to the people that have the same skill set as entrepreneurs, but if you can give them that vehicle, you can harness that ability, that entrepreneurial ability inside your organization. Right. Yeah. And this is the force multiplier. This is the idea of creating when I teach companies this, what we talk about is you want to create an environment that optimizes the opportunities for growth.
Now, right? That's interesting to me. I got a program that I spun up called Work to Own, and it's just that, right? Instead of like buy to own, it's like work to own, and it's leveraging. It's basically saying, hey, your employer now could be your first client partner later.
Yep. Client, partner, etc.
Right. And they can let you spin up ideas right within the company itself.
Exactly.
Crazy stuff.
Right. And you look at the best companies, right? Built to last. Jerry Pappas and Jim Collins talk about this all the time. Right. Excuse me. The companies that last 100 years and do great work and all the rest of that, they have a particular portion of their budget that allows for intrapreneurship, that allows for people to do just stuff, to figure out what drives them, to do things that innovate. Google enforces 80% of their week. So 4 days out of the week, you're working on Google stuff. 21 day out of the week, you're working on your own whatever stuff. Right. 3M had the same thing. They had a 15% R&D budget that just went to an R&D, and their scientists, their chemists, et cetera, would just go work on stuff. And interestingly enough, a lot of the things that we see today that exist came out of those programs.
Environments. Redbox.
Exactly.
I mean, I read, and it was incredible. I heard that Redbox, and I could be wrong. I could be, I'm messing this up. But Redbox was started literally by McDonald's. And I was like, by McDonald's? How the story goes, Redbox, they were using it as a means. Some entrepreneur inside says, hey, why don't we do this? And we'll make vending machines or something like that, and we'll put stuff in. And they were like, this is not the deal. And then the guy says, well, if we can't put that in there, what could we put in it? And then that's what he came up with. Well, we could put these DVDs, and then people could take them home and blah, 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 right? So the other day, I was going and I was looking for some movies to buy, and what did I come across? Redbox.
Exactly.
So Redbox online. I never go because I don't have a DVD player.
It's making a lot of money. Yeah, no, all of these things. The thing that I think is so important is the paradigm, and that's why I was pushing back, right? Because there's this idea that there's an either or, that people are either this or that, right? I used to have this argument with my commanding officer when I was in the Marine Corps, because he was like, leaders are they're natural born leaders. You either got it or you don't. It's an it factor, right? Wow. And I'm of the opinion personally that leadership can be taught. It is a skill that can be learned. Now, I come to that opinion as someone who learned leadership. I was not a natural leader. I didn't grow up and be in the center of attention and everybody liking me and all the rest of that type of stuff. I grew up, I was intelligent. I was able to articulate myself. I was able to communicate, but I was also like, I skipped a grade. So I was the youngest kid in my class and all of these types of things. So there was a social awkwardness that was just, y'all are 14 and I'm 12, right? Like there was a number of these things that existed in that space. So I wasn't a natural leader in my spaces. I was naturally, and I understood what I wanted, and I was capable, I was self-assured, but that didn't mean that I led other people, right? I had to learn how to become a leader. So to the point that, I was able to go to the Marine Corps and become a company commander and do all the rest of that type of stuff. But that was later on down the line. And so I would talk to my CO and we would sit there and I'm like, sir, do you think I'm a good leader? He's like, yes. Like he gave me an award for leadership, all the rest of the type of stuff. So it wasn't, just, blowing smoke. But I'm like, if you think I'm a good leader and you think leaders are born, I need you to understand I wasn't always like this. Like I learned this stuff, right?
See,
And
this
so we
is
were
a
talking.
skill that was, I had to learn
Exactly.
it.
This is a skill that was acquired, right? And it was intentionally acquired. Like I went on a leadership journey when I was because I was a teacher and I was a basketball coach. And so I had skills. I had been training these skills while I was in college, while I was doing stuff. But even then, I still knew that I didn't have the leadership chops that I needed to make the impact that I want to make. And so I went on a
That's
leadership
funny.
journey to learn how to be a better leader. And that's all important because this entrepreneurship thing, right? So many people, like it's been mystified and it's made to be this huge deal and all the rest of that stuff. Basically, when we look at it and we break it down, the quiet quitting that you were talking about at the beginning is really the result of people not being engaged, not being aligned with what is going on at work. Because each and every one of us has a gift, has a purpose, has a something that that resonates with us as what we're supposed to be here for, right? If our work can resonate and it can allow us to move that forward, then there's not enough money that you could pay a person to do that job. Right. It is something that gives them fulfillment in that space, and they're constantly looking to be more fulfilled. Similarly, if that work is not aligned with who we are, there's not enough money you could pay that person to do that job.
That's let's go ahead and grab one of your topics, but that's right there, man, is what I needed to hear. And if you guys are listening in, put some stuff in the comment section, or if you've had situations where you've quietly quit, tell us about that too. We're interested. We're curious about that. So, Rob, what topic do you have? Because I got about three or four more that we could touch on.
Yeah. So I had a question for you, because I know that I've been
Rob's
looking in this.
I love questions.
Yeah, I've been looking at marketers, right? And I remember this has been, for me, this is one of my primary frustrations as a entrepreneur and a non-marketer, right? So I'm coming to my marketer friend, and I want you to break down a little bit for non-marketers when they're going into the marketplace looking for marketers. What are the things that what are the questions that marketers should be asking? What are the things that they should be, like the milestones they should be putting in place? What are some of the ratios that they should be looking at as far as return on marketing spend or return on ad spend? That, and kind of from that space of, they don't know what the marketers do, but you run this. Marketers are a large group, and there are some that will sell you a dream. Yeah. And then give you nothing, and then there are others that are quiet and just right, but not all. Like there's a bunch, and I know you're humble in that space, but there's a bunch of y'all that are like, no, I know I can go get you this much traffic, I know I can go get you this, and here's what's necessary. But how do you distinguish between the ones that can do it and the ones that can't?
Ask them to go in and get paid for performance. I kid you not. Ask them, and I'm telling you, it will piss them off unless they got that kind of edge to them, right? I tell you. So if you've developed an initial enough trust, right, and you can say, hey, listen, right, come on, we know the marketing game. You know enough of it, right? And you've seen, I can do this and I can do that. So, okay, that's fine. I tell you what, if you do it, I'll pay you X. I'll pay you X. In fact, maybe, here's a little hamburger money right now. And I'm telling you, man, because you just don't know if they can do it for you. If you just don't know if they're going to use your money to get good. All these different things, right? They're practicing on your dime, kind of a thing. I've seen that happen. This happened to me, and I've done it, right? but that's the thing. But when you get that person that says, I will I will get paid to play. Now you've got someone that's interested, and now you form a degree of partnership. Now, unless you're just like in a hurry and you don't have time for that, then you just got to look at track records. You got to call up some people. Did this work for you? All that kind of stuff. You got to do the necessary background checks. Now, I mean, background as in terms of, I want you to show me 5 people that you've worked with that you've gotten results for. Just like you can look at whether it's I don't know if you work with handicap sign or some printing shops, right? You can literally say, go talk to them. They will show you how I earn them X. And then you can come to me. But when you come back to me, maybe I'm going to charge more because now you know. But when you say, hey, listen, how about this? Don't pay me a dime until you see 2 dimes. And then I want half. Now, we've done that too when we've gone out and talked to companies and said, listen, we'll help you.
Yep.
But we're going to get you money and we're going to expect 50% of that. This is money that you didn't have now. Now, that's the irresistible offer.
Yep.
Right? I'm going to go earn you money enough to now pay me.
Yep.
I'm going to handle everything. Right? We've seen how Alex Hormozy has done it. He said, I'll go take care of everything. I'll run the ads. I'll do everything. I'm going to bring you money. Now, it's a hard way to go sometimes because you just get tired of folks. And if somebody don't pay you, been there, done that. Somebody, not me not paying somebody, because I always pay my vendors, but not being paid. Yep. Right? Where you go and pull, you do the everyday door direct and blah, 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 and that leaves a scar. But if you got that person that's willing to say, I will go get you 2 dimes, but you gotta pay me 1.
Yeah.
Now you got somebody that I think you can work with. If they're telling you any other kind of stuff, man, right? And it's not jiving with industry standards. Hey, I'm going to get you a 75% ROA, a ROAS, return on ad spend. You're going to get me, well, how much? Right? And you kind of go, that's way out of industry. It's not to say that they're not special and all that kind of stuff. But I would then say, okay, you go do that and I'll give you 35%. I'll give you half. Now, wait a minute. You got to pay me up front. Been there, done that. I'm not dropping $10,000 on you. I'm just not doing it. Right? Because we've seen too many people run off with the dough, and then, you got nothing. You're sitting there going, really? But if they're willing to kind of partner with you and say, hey, look, I'm with you. This is what I do for a living. And I know your situation is different. So I'm going to upfront you the time. I'm going to upfront whatever it needs to be set up. And then I'm just going to expect you to give me half when you get the whole. That's somebody that you're really looking for. And now I know I'm going to get some hate on that. Right? Because people got to eat and they, want their money up front and all that kind of stuff. But in this day and age, man.
Right. And I like
it's not
that.
Unreasonable to ask for that.
We
do it ourselves.
I like the point that you just put out there. And I think that, first of all, in the comments, you all, if you think that having somebody have skin in the game is what we need to do, go ahead, put thumbs up, smash that thumbs up button. Yep. Or if you disagree, if you're one of those that's out there like, no, I need to get paid first, and so that's not going to work for me, go ahead and smash that thumbs down. Because I think that's like that intersection that you just talked about there between the irresistible offer, right, and the idea of skin in the game, I think is important. I know for me, one of the things that I give my clients is I give them a guarantee, right? If we ain't doing what you say that you want us to do, if we're not living up to it, and get your money back. I'm so confident that I'm going to wow you with what I do that I'm willing to tell you I'll give you your money back, because I know
I've seen your program,
I only take jobs.
I've seen your program, and the beauty of it is you show it on paper, right? I've seen it. I've been there in the and when a person can see it work on paper, when you can literally say, okay, here's how. But if you got that mysticist, they're coming in, they're saying, here's some smoke, and then here's a mirror, and you're going, but if they show you like you do, you go, well, I believe that we can turn this ad or this, what you say, into some different kind of wording that would then get you back this. Why? Because it's been demonstrated 4 or 5 times.
Exactly. Right.
And then if we do that, will you be willing to do this? Yes.
Simple.
Okay.
Right.
So then they tell you, man, listen, if they tell you what they want and they basically sell themselves, you're not selling them. You're
That's
just, and I've seen how you present. You'll say, okay, if we can just do these things, would you be willing to do this? Right. And that's kind of like your guarantee. Right. I'm going to perform.
Right.
Right. Now you may ask for it. Okay, now that's going to give me $5,000 and I got to go I'm going to turn that 5 in. If I don't turn it into 10, 15, 20.
Exactly.
We give it back.
And that's part of my program. And I think that even more importantly, I asked them, how much is that worth to you? Right. Like before we ever talk about my price, how much is it worth to you?
Yeah.
Because again, as a vendor, as the person, what I love about being an entrepreneur is I get to choose my clients. I don't have to work with nobody that I don't want to work with, right? Like there's no situation where I'm like, ooh, I have to take this job because somebody's going to make me. It's like, nah, I'll go find somebody else that I want to work with. And so in that space, I look at, is there enough value in this? Do you value this enough to pay my fee? If you value it enough to pay my fee, I know I'm going to get you the result. That's not the question. The question is, are you going to pay me? And so I set it up in that space. But the beauty of it is it's that irresistible offer idea. Most people are looking at, you said it perfectly. You're like, I'm not about to pay you $10,000 for a dream, for a hope, for a maybe. And that's because you've been burned, right? You've been burned. I've done it. I've had the same thing. I'm talking to in my discussions with marketers now. I tell them, I'm like, I've spent $20,000, $30,000 on marketing and gotten nothing back. Zero. Other than, the marketer saying, wow, the market's really difficult, or this is really hard, or blah, 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 blah.
So and I'm like, just practiced on your money.
Exactly. And so I'm like, nah, it's not going to happen anymore. And what's interesting about it, though, for those of you all that are out there that are feeling like, well, I don't know if, I'm comfortable with that or whatever. Randy gave another point that I really liked, because I have my people pay me up front, and then they have a refund, right, if they don't like it. But I also have a track record. And in my work with my clients, I make them prove to themselves that they're getting the value that they said that they wanted to give. If I do a training, if I do coaching, if I do something like that, in the coaching, they're doing their own case study. They're writing up, right? I'm tracking. I have one of my business clients right now. We track week by week what the improvement is, what we were, what we expected, what the baseline was when I first got there, and then what the improvements are, right? And so in an 8-week program that I'm doing for one of my clients, they have already recouped their investment 5 weeks in.
Right. See,
now everything else that approach. They do is to the good.
You're saying, hey, I'm going to show you the pathway. Here's the promise. And they look at it and go, oh, that looks pretty good. Right. And then you go say, and I'm going to bring some social proofing. Right. I'm going to bring some testimonials that these are people you can call.
Right.
Right. Now think about that. If this were a job, this is basically you following up on the references they put down. And then if you feel comfortable with that, then you can say, okay, now, I think I was watching a podcast and the guy says, look, here's the deal. Oh, it was the cold email wizard guy. Yep. He says, they're not going to believe you. He says, so go do it. Right. And he says, go get, based on their business, a whole bunch of emails, because he's a cold email wizard. He says, go get the emails and then show them I got the emails. So you basically put some skin in the game, and you're basically saying, I can give it to you, or I can give it to somebody that's competing against you. Exactly. I went and did the thing.
Right.
So I know
I can do the thing.
Yeah, I just got them. There they are right there.
So that's the key.
And that's that irresistible. So now you're basically saying, do you want them? I went out and did them. We met. You kind of like, I don't know if this guy, is going to do the deal. And the guy says, I'll go do the deal.
Yep. No, I like that.
I put vendors through right now. Rob, this is it. I was telling a vendor, send one of them random emails. Hey, we want to do your, marketing. And I said to him, you won't do marketing just on a promise. I says, put together a pathway to potential profits. Put that in front of me.
Yep.
And then another thing I suggested to him, and I says, and put us at the center of it. We're the hero. Yep. Right. In other words, I don't want to see your logos. I want you to see our stuff, how you would bring in, drive traffic to our thing, and how that traffic would convert. That's getting me to believability.
Exactly. Now I agree with you. And I think looking at that, wrapping this up to get to your next topic for the listeners, what I heard you say was, it's really important to make sure that they have skin in the game, that they're willing to prove, because there's a lot of people out there saying that they can do the thing. Yeah. That it's not unreasonable, right? Because I know for me, when I first started out, I felt like it was disrespectful or like I wasn't believing them. But it's not unreasonable to be like, hey, there's a lot of people saying they can do this stuff. Why should I believe you? And that's a position that's an acceptable position for a business owner to be in, right? As CEO of your company, it's important for you to be able to say, why should I believe you? Give me some proof. Show me that you can do it. Not for 50 million people over there that I don't know, but show me what you would do. Show me pathway to profits for my company.
That's it. And that's one of the things that it's a difficult out there right now, right? Maybe it's a difficult thing. They come with a tremendous track record. That's one thing. I'm not asking Denzel Washington to come to, because they've got a body of work that says I no longer have to audition.
Exactly.
But for the most part, everybody else does.
Exactly.
That's the difference, right?
No, it makes sense.
You're coming with that kind of pedigree, you got to audition.
Right. And for most of us, beginning entrepreneurs, beginning business owners, you're not dealing with the Denzel Washingtons of the industry. So get comfortable making people audition.
Yeah. Right. And that's one of the things. So here's a topic, man, that I don't know why I told you I slept on the couch last night, not because I was in trouble, but because like I told Linda, I says, look, you might as well go to bed because all I'm watching is podcasts and, how-to things and all that kind of stuff, letting it seep in, right? And I woke up
on an education binge last night.
That's it, right? And I says, I'm not watching no movies. I'm not doing that. I want my later in the nights to be about what can I put in that inspires me for the next day, right? Because I'm on my grind, right? So anyway, I wake up and Tony Robbins is talking to Lewis Howes, right? Always a great conversation.
Yep.
And Tony's
great in this podcast.
You're going to be sitting on the couch going, I need to run down the street.
Yeah, with his weird clap.
Yeah, and the point is, he says, so Lewis Howes said to him, hey, listen, what brings the hunger back to people? He said, people have lost their hunger. And he says, that's the difference between, why they're not being successful and all that kind of stuff. And he says, who you're around, who you're surrounded by.
Yeah.
Now we've heard that before. I remember my mom used to say, well, you can't fly with eagles if you're hanging out with ducks. Or, I think it was ducks or chickens or something, right?
Pigeons, yeah.
They're pigeons or something. Well, pigeons fly, but you're not going to soar if you're hanging out down here, right?
Yep. I love it.
Your environment. And I've been wondering about this, as I've had to check some of my own motivations. And then I said, yeah, but I worked hard to give myself a comfortable life. And guess what happened?
What's that?
I got comfortable.
Yeah.
So it worked. Right. So if you've worked hard to give yourself a comfortable life, right? All the things you work toward are about comfort. You got it. Now, when you got to turn it on, it ain't there.
It ain't there.
No. You can't. And so that made me think, should we, we got the quiet quitters, and then we have the people that need their hunger back for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe inflation ate up their, whatever, maybe their, their wife or husband left them, whatever it is. But they don't have now the skill set to turn it back on. How did they turn the hunger back on? We could probably look and see, hey, well, 50 pounds, different than I used to be. I haven't, ran down the street, let alone walk, whatever it is. The hunger's gone.
Yeah, so, that makes sense.
Do we help with a business model that helps the quiet quitters be more? And this is kind of a question. I need some, advice on this. A business model or some kind of thing that I continually start up that helps the quiet quitters. Hey, yeah, we're going to help you go ahead and quietly quit so you can start your own thing. Or something that helps people get their hunger back, helps business people get their hunger back, help the entrepreneurs get hunger to start things. So I'm curious, which one, and this is the topic, y'all, which one would be, in your estimation, more lucrative?
So I am,
maybe for society, I don't know.
As you know, as you've probably gotten used to me, I'm not an either or type of person. I'm a both and here's the synergy that I see between.
I'm gonna help the quitters quit and help the hungers.
Right. Because here's the foundational problem that both of them are facing. Right. That loss of passion is just quiet quitting over time. Right. It's burnout. And that loss of passion comes from the fact that even if you're comfortable, right, you've started to live in that comfort, but you start getting burnt out of being comfortable because there's nothing that is stoking that fire. There's nothing that's invigorating that passion in you. That's the same thing that's happening for the person that's at the job that's spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning, but their passion has left the building. right? That's where the quiet quitting is coming from. And so in that space, I think that what's most important and a business model that, right, this is why Tony Robbins is who he is. What he's able to do is he's able to reconnect people with their passion, with their core passion, their purpose, right? Right. He has this workshop called Unleashing the Power Within, right? And it's a book, he's got workshops, he's got all this type of stuff. But right, it's that idea of there's something in you that you're disconnected from, right? And this goes back to, you know, if you with spirituality, with religion, all the rest of that, there's a connection that we lose when we start getting focused into all of these other things, and we don't realize, right? We don't even notice that we lose the connection. The indicator for us that we've lost the connection is that burnout, is that dispassionate existence. It's almost like a zombie-like existence. You're just moving from day to day. You're just surviving. And this is where so much of the literature that talks about surviving as negative comes from, because we know that that surviving space is it's an unfulfilled space, right? That doesn't mean it's bad though. And that's the reason why I want to push back a little bit against that. Because again, you could not be surviving, right? There's a whole other side that is, you ain't here no more. And for whatever reason, and that is bad. That is worse. Surviving is good. It is our baseline, but it is not sufficient for our fulfillment. That's the thing. It is necessary for fulfillment, because if you ain't surviving, you can't be fulfilled, but it is not sufficient. And so to your question, a business state, a solution, whatever it would be something that helps people to find their passion and connect their life to their passion. One of the things that the programs that you have that I love, the title and the concept of it is monetize your life, right?
Monetize your life.
Right?
It's going crazy right now.
Exactly, right? It's that idea of everything you do can be something that brings you income,
yeah.
Right?
Let me show you how.
Exactly. Now, the key to that is that the key premise of that is that's the whole point. Everything you do should be focused and aligned towards your life goal. It doesn't mean that it all has to neatly fit, but it should be all pointing in the same direction.
Yeah.
And the more that happens, then you get this synergistic growth and this exponential growth, because you're constantly pouring into your cup. You're never pouring out. The energy that you're expending to do something gives you back a return of energy and invigoration that is more than the energy that you had to expend to do it. And that's where you see those people that just seem like they have energy for days. They seem like dynamos. They seem like they can just go and go and go. The reason is because they're actually not having a net loss in energy when they're putting out energy.
And you just explained the framework of why it works so well, right? And it's gotten to the point where I've just decided to start the Monetize Your Life Academy, right? And you know, and Mila, I got a name for it and everything. Mila, once you enter into Mila, your life changes dramatically, and you stay extremely engaged, because I'm going to show you so many ways that you can monetize just about everything you do, right? And man, I tell you, whether I'm talking to business owners, I got a big meeting with a one on Monday that actually somebody else brought me to this. He says, man, you know, can you come with me to talk to them about X, right? And I already just looking at their model, I've already started, you know, pinpointing areas that I believe that they can create monetizable opportunities from, right? So it's not necessarily a person monetize your life, but in this particular case, monetize the components of your business. Have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done this? And if not, here's how. Right. So, and this would have been a situation for us, but somebody brought me to it. It says, I want me and you to go over here and talk to them about this, right? Because they're not ready for this situation. So I'm like, no problem. Right. And I just identified maybe 30 or 40 different things that they could do that when I looked at their, you know, website and all that kind of stuff, I see that they're not doing. Right. So I'm not the doctor, you know, diagnosing before the patient told you what's wrong. Not anything like that. I went and checked out their chart beforehand. Right. Anyway. So, but what is so interesting is when I drop these principles, these frameworks onto whether it's an entrepreneur or an individual, man, it's almost as if it's been sitting there in front of them all this time. They get a little embarrassed that they didn't see it. I says, don't get embarrassed. Don't feel bad about what you didn't know. But now that you know, if you don't constantly find the framework to do this. Now, I give them enough, obviously. I'll say, look, I'll, like, true to my word, I'll show you. Here it is. Here's your situation, not some phantom situation. Here's how you can monetize it. Here are the tools you can use. I'm an affiliate for the tool, so go ahead and grab them through me. So that's the monetization opportunity, right? So once they see it, then they go, law of reciprocity kicks in. They go, that's cool. That tool? Yep, that one. And that's the monetization for me putting stuff up front.
Yep.
That's how I make money, if you will, on the back end when you didn't have to pay. If y'all are listening to this right now, if I didn't just give you the tip on how you can do the work first, Rob and I have talked about it in some other things. You know, how do you get paid for doing free and all that kind of stuff? Check out some of those. But that's it, Rob. Right? Anyway, so
now it makes perfect sense. And I think that
you help me decide.
Yeah, to your ultimate point, reconnecting them with their inner passion, reconnecting them with who they are, and being able to do that consistently, repetitively, over and over and over again. It turns on so many benefits because it opens up things to them, and that's something that they have been longing for, they've been striving for, whether they're the quiet quitters or whether they're the burnouts. It doesn't matter. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for that passion, that fire to be reinvigorated. So I got one last question for you as we get ready to close here. And this one has to do with, I know, you've got a background in organizational development. We do a lot with organizations and leadership and training. And I wanted to ask you, I've been dealing with some leadership teams here recently, and something that I noticed that happens in the conversations that we have, because I give value before we ever contract. Just my proposal process is a process that helps them to gain clarity on what they're doing and all the rest of that type of stuff, and it's intentional on my part because it's like I said, it's the proof is in the pudding. I intentionally come to the initial sessions with questions, and I love it when I hear them say, "Oh, that's a good question. We haven't thought about that before," or "Oh, that's something I definitely need to think about. We need to," right? That's part of what I do to make them see this is the value that I'm bringing to the table. You can imagine if I'm doing this in an hour, what am I going to do when we work together for a long time? But something that's interesting that I see, and I wonder what you think is kind of the what's the cause behind it?
What's that dynamic?
I see a lot of people who struggle to quantify the value of a talent project, right? And you've got employees, you're working on this now. So I'm talking to you kind of from your organizational development experience and as your business owner employer experience. What is it about organizations that they can't quantify how improving their staff, improving their talent pool will affect the bottom line? I wonder why that is that so many companies struggle with that.
It's not an emergency. It's the same thing that happens with and man, this is such a great topic. It's the lost language is really what we're talking about versus get more. Think about this. When you present things that are get more to people, they're kind of going, I don't know if I got that kind of hunger. Whereas when you present get back, it's why the house in the gambling situation always wins. Hey, you just lost, get it back. Come back, get it back, right? So, and you're like, yeah, I have to get back my losses. In marketing, we call that using loss language, right? Neuro-linguistic programming talks about that too, NLP, right? Using loss language helps people see, because now they don't have to decide that 1, 2, 3 incremental change will do what for my life versus I just lost a bundle. I'm losing productivity. I'm losing out to the competition by not doing these and putting these things in place. I gotta get it back.
Yeah.
When you present that to them, hey, if you don't do this in the next 17 weeks, you're going to lose. Now, I know you don't like to use that kind of language, but hey, listen, as a military person, the reason we got to take that hill is if we do not,
right,
we could lose the theater. What? We're not losing that theater versus yeah, we can gain a little ground and get a
Yeah.
little.
You know,
It's that,
I
man, you
like
got to
that.
give them the urgency. You got to, in what you do, give them the urgency. What you do is right now, and I've listened to, how you do your thing. You give them the dream, right? And you go, this is what you could be, aspire to. And they're going, that makes me feel good, but it does not necessarily make me feel I need to. Right? So you got to, I'm telling you, man, you got to inject some hunger. I remember in my master's program, what we talked about was, this is why an emergency or a situation or an economy that's going bad is an opportunity. Because now everybody's on point thinking they're going to lose something, their job, because sales are down, or the thing just blew up. So then they work harder. They're like, oh my gosh, I got to come to work every day. Now they didn't come to work every day for the first, during the boom times, but now with the threat of loss. And I think that's interjecting that, giving them that sense of urgency and seeing that, well, I was just at a trade show and I saw some companies using this kind of technology that within 13 months, if you don't do this.
Yeah, now that's really good.
Totally
Especially
outflank you. Now use some of that military.
The loss language. And what's interesting about that loss language, because they talk about, we are more inclined to prevent loss than we are, right? We're more motivated by fear of loss than we are by anticipation of gain. Yes. I get that. And I think that one of the things that is a struggle that I see that people struggle, because with the companies that I work with, that's generally where we get to when they make a decision, right? In the beginning, though, what I notice is that they struggle because a lot of companies haven't quantified that loss, right? Because a lot of people talk about soft skills and intangibles and all the rest of that. And it's like, yes, those exist, but there are tangible qualities to be attached to this, right? Productivity is not an intangible. Productivity is a direct loss category, depending on, right? Because productivity is basically how much work do you get out for the amount of labor that you paid. It's a return on investment quotient, right? But it's
just language it differently. Hey, you're losing out.
Exactly. Now
you're falling behind.
It's interesting, and what I've found is that it's really hard for them, like that in that space, just doing that work is value add to an organization, because just getting them to understand how much they're losing, right? For example, with my time, my Thriving in Chaos course, one of the things that I did that I do with the students there is I make them calculate how much their hours are worth, right? Based on their current salaries, based on whatever metrics they currently live at right now. How much is your time worth? Now, how much of that time are you wasting that you can never get back? And what does that cost you every year, right? Like, to your point, being able to do that. But what I noticed is that skill is a skill that a lot of, especially the people in HR and talent development, learning and development in these companies that I deal with, that's a skill that a lot of them don't have or don't exercise. And it's interesting to me because for me, right, they're the part of the company that they have to justify their existence and their budgets so much. But it's interesting to me that so many of those groups are not capable of doing that. I was just wondering, like,
that's because they've been trained qualitatively, right? It's what I realized. I was getting an MA, and all the MBA folks were like, "That's bullshit." Master of Art, qualitative. Master of Business Administration, quantitative. Numbers. Well, I didn't want to mess with the numbers, right? Because I didn't want my head to crack. But I get it. But I get it. We're coming touchy-feely and saying, "Oh, you have to, take your organization and make them, thrive and all that kind of stuff." And they're saying, keep this organization's doors open because it's about to close. Here are the numbers that show you the proof.
Yep. No, I love it.
So you're like,
and that's an interesting thing. That's where I feel like we bridge the gap, because that's what we help people to do. We help people to see, yes, we understand and we speak the touchy-feely language, but we also understand the bottom line. And I think for business owners, for everybody, for those of you all that are owning your businesses, that are entrepreneurs, that are looking at hiring people or doing stuff like that, it's imperative that you understand how to connect all of the touchy-feely stuff that you'll hear if you're watching Brene Brown, if you're watching Simon Sinek, if you're reading Jim Collins, if you're reading all these other people that are talking about organizational health and organizational culture and organizational development, it's imperative that you develop the ability or have an advisor on your staff, somebody like Randy and I, somebody that can help you to connect these dots between those that information and the bottom line results. Because you won't move just from this is the beautiful thing Randy was just explaining. You won't move just because, oh, this would be nice to have. But if you can connect it to your bottom line results, then you're dealing with something completely different.
Hey, look, and I said, do you want your company to go to zero? Right. And I'll tell you, here's somebody, a company that we had put, our proposal in their lap. Right. And just the other day, she said to me, are we still talking? I was like, yeah, I've been sending little notes and like, blah, blah, blah. And I says, yeah, but we can't make you have the hunger. I didn't say this to her, but we can't make you have the hunger.
Exactly.
Right? Now, because it was like, I should have said, hey, do you want your company to go to zero?
There you go.
Yeah. No. Do you want your company to go away because you stepped out from it? No. Well, let's get back.
Right.
Let's get it back on the kind of track that allows you to take time away. That's the kind of languaging that hits the center of the mind that says, I got to recapture versus I'm going to get extra.
Yeah, exactly.
Like even thriving in chaos, right?
Yep.
Chaos is the good word. Preventing chaos. How? By making yourself thrive. Right. And I remember you said this a long time ago. I presented you said, man, I don't like that language. It was like, it's negative. Yes, it is, because it gets people's attention. Right. It gets your attention and they're like, what? Right. It's like what we tell the entrepreneurs when they're pitching. Start with the problem. I don't care about your name. Right. I see people online. Hey, my name is John Cristani. Well, whatever. I'll just listen to him. But he says, here's the problem. But those are the ones that get my attention. Those are the ads that get my attention. You're about to go to zero. What?
Yep.
You got my attention.
Exactly.
But this is how you prevent it. And I'm the person to help you prevent it. Why? Listen to all those people I've helped.
Exactly.
Now, if you want to go to zero, go ahead. If you don't,
you do you.
If you don't, now he didn't say if you want to get ahead. Those guys, I'm like, and women, I'm like, come on, please give me another one. Give me something that suggests trouble. Because this is how you look at the videos, man, on YouTube right now. It's even the reaction videos, because that's been hot, right? That people just been like seeing a situation and reacting. Oh man, did you hear what she just said? You hear what's going on? What's going on with Puffy? What's going on with so and so? Blah. Did you hear that? We are attracted to trouble.
Yeah, your brain allows 6 to 9 times more negative inputs in than positive.
Exactly. So we might as well start narrating things in a way to our companies and saying, hey, if you don't get production up to this level, this company could go to zero. Why? Well, they're putting robots in. What? Yeah, I was just at a trade show. Robots don't take vacation. So if you don't get your production, now that's a real thing that's happening. You can bring this to them and say, so this is how I'm going to show you how to do it with people.
Right.
That's it.
I agree with you.
I hope y'all got some value out of this, y'all.
Yeah. That was really good.
I didn't even get to democratize earning opportunities. I didn't get to that. That's Web3 stuff, bro.
Tune in next week.
Yeah, we're gonna get in. I'm gonna put that on for next week too. Democratize earning opportunity. I read that word, that phrase, and I was like, "Ooh, what's that?" And I've been talking with the startup grind guy, and in a whole different space, Web3 space. Why? Because I need to put myself in environments of situations I know nothing. And this guy says to me yesterday, he says, "Man, you're ahead of the curve." I am. I'm thinking I'm like some idiot guy in here. He says, just listening to what you've been able to discover in a couple of months and the kind of questions you're asking of me. And because he's involved, this guy that runs the startup grind chapter here, he says, I'm involved with all these people that are in that Web3 space. And he says, what you just espoused and the things that you're putting in front of me are stuff that they're just now talking about it. And you know nothing about it. I said, you're right. That's why I call you and says, what value does this have?
There you go.
He said, so it's one of those things, right?
Yeah. It's about asking the right questions. That I think that's a great kind of end note for today. Part of growth, part of understanding, part of being able to get to the solutions that you all want is you first must ask the right question.
Y'all hear it, right? Because you know what we're going to do? We are going to be honest with you, right? We're going to do everything we can to be nice, but we want to keep your business from going to zero. Entrepreneurs, we want you starting with hunger and going out there and getting yourself fed.
Yes.
We got to stop being, oh my gosh, yes, there's food everywhere. No. No. We got to go out in there and show you how to get this money. And we're going to do that. All right.
Yeah.
Everybody, we'll talk to you guys next time. Rob, it's good talking
everybody.
to you again, brother. We will
As
talk
always,
to you again next week.
Take it easy.
Yes, y'all.
All right.